Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting for the Rossmoor Community Services District. This evening, it's August 14th, the year 2012. Mr. Aaron, may we have the roll call, please?
Director Casey?
Here.
Director Kaler?
Here.
Director Maynard?
Here.
President Coletta?
Here, and visibly absent is Mr. Rips, who's on vacation for a well-deserved time with his family. So nonetheless, we will proceed. Would you join us as we pledge our allegiance to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this evening we have two presentations, the first of which, Mr. Taboada, is the presenter available?
Mr. President, members of the board, you have Sheriff's Lieutenant Robert Gunzel, who's going to present the quarterly crime statistics, followed by Southern California Gas Company Project Manager, Mr. Paul Simonds, regarding wireless gas meters.
Mr. Gunzel?
Thank you.
Welcome back to Rossmoor.
Thank you very much. Glad to be back. Ecstatic to be back. I know what they, talking to Barbara and my predecessor, I know what they used to do is pie charts and graphs and things like that, and I'd just rather speak plain English because that's what I understand better. So if you'd allow me, and you've all got the crime stats that I have in front of me here, and some of the measures that we've taken care of or that we've enacted to try and mitigate some of the residential burglaries that we're having. As you can see from the chart, residential burglaries are at 21, but some of those are attempted burglaries nonetheless. Some of the things that we have done in the past month or so, again, my predecessor's credit on this one, he switched the patrol hours, noting that the time of a few of these burglaries were in the morning and afternoon time. So what Bob Wren did is he shifted our shift 3 cars hours from noon till midnight, basically, to try and cover some of the areas where, as I said, a lot of the burglary cases we're looking for in the afternoon. So we try to do that. Upcoming things that I'm working on now that the fair is done, several of my bike patrol guys who are working the fair, we're going to have them out here in the community, days and nights, and we're not going to make the announcement we're doing it. You'll just see deputies on bikes. So that's something I'm working on. A third thing, which is going to happen in September, is we're going to have the units come back out of the west substation and stand like they used to do. So all of our west side. Excuse me, sir?
Can you say that again?
All of our west side units, Rossmoor, Midway City, and Anaheim, will be dispatched out of the west sub instead of in Santa Ana.
So that'll be Stanton?
Yes, starting in September. They'll, instead of being stationed at headquarters, they'll now be stationed at Stanton. Not working for Stanton PD, working for me, but
I understood that. And then as far as booking, where will that take place?
it'll still be in Santa Ana.
So if a car leaves Rossmoor, it will go directly to Santa Ana.
Right, and we do have a cover car since we lost Sunset Beach. We didn't eliminate all those cars. We kept one for a cover car. So I'll mandate that, and now as it is, the cover car stays over here at night, not necessarily Rossmoor, but we call it a West Side cover car. So they know, by directive of Lieutenant Wren and myself, if the Rossmoor car is gone, the cover car is supposed to be here. So. Anyway, I've got several of the residential burglary reports that I pulled for this quarter. And it's hard to, other than the hours of burglaries, even though they are all over the board, depending on what time they're reported. But again, we have several in the morning, but these start back as early as April. But some of the things that I highlighted here, for instance, one of them that someone had a back window opened. Screen door, or the screen was shut, but the back door was open. They gained entry that way. Another one, they actually pried off a security door, so that person took measures to secure the home, and it's still, two of these actually, the back security door got pried. One of them, they did not make entry because the alarm went off. The second one, they did. Another one, they pried out the security door and made entry, but there was no loss on that burglary. Another one, the person's vehicle was left unlocked in the driveway. The suspect accessed the car and opened the garage door with the garage door opener. That caused the person's alarm to chirp when the door opened, which alerted the homeowner, and they came out and there was nothing missing there because they scared the person off. Another one was the side kitchen door, again, behind the fence, a side kitchen door, which I know a lot of the homes here are designed that way. Someone pried open the door with a flat blade screwdriver. Not sure what time of the day this was because they left for the weekend and they discovered it on Monday. This one was a short time frame between 7:30 and 8:55 in the morning. Someone pried open a metal screen door and got into the house. Now that indicates to us that someone was actually watching the street, saw a vehicle leave and took advantage of the time frame because that's a very short time frame. Another woman who reported a residential burglary, she was actually in the house when it occurred, wasn't quite sure the time frame. When she went to look for her purse, she had an unlocked front door. She noticed it at 10 o'clock at night. She does have a security system, so she rewound the tape, and at 6 o'clock at night, someone clearly in a jogging suit came up to her front door, apparently checked the door, found it unlocked, went in, was in there 3 seconds, and left because her purse was right by the front door. Took her purse. And then there was a vehicle burglary report that is an unknown time frame because it was discovered several days after the victim started getting phone calls from his bank. So if we assume it was done here in Rossmoor, it was a couple-day period, and he didn't notice until he saw his below his door lock was punched. So didn't know that his wallet, which he kept in his truck, was taken until the bank started calling him. And then the last one, which was a pretty significant loss, was someone pried open the rear window of the house. So, most of these are in the earlier part of this quarter. There's only two of them in June. So, I'd like to talk about response times if you gentlemen have a minute. I know that we have come under, our department has come under some scrutiny with the Yorba Linda contract and about response times. And I just want to compare apples to apples. Basically the way, and some of the things that we've done that weren't clear before. The Sheriff's Department has a 5-minute response time goal. I didn't learn about that till about 2 months ago. In fact, there's no one in my division that knew we had a 5-minute response time goal. That being said, the way they measure response times, and I've asked that they measure them differently now, or they report them differently so I can understand them. The response times are really far down compared to where last year, but in order to understand the complete picture of the response times, they also include the time in which the dispatcher, as soon as the victim of a crime calls 911, and these are priority 1 response times, by the way, as soon as the victim calls 911, that clock starts. So, for instance, on average, it's 2.5 minutes for the dispatcher to get the call out to the patrol car. That counts towards our 5 minutes, which is, to me, is unacceptable, but dispatch didn't even know we had a 5-minute goal. So that's something that's been spread around up there, and they're working on measures to try and fix that 2.5-minute time. And this is speaking just directly to Rossmoor. They only had 1 in the last quarter, priority 1, but it took 2.5 minutes to get out to the deputy, and it took them 2 minutes to drive here. So it was a total response time of 5 minutes and 53 seconds. Still short of the goal. But then on the records, this is the one just from 1 response time, and then the records that were provided to you folks They actually measured 6 of them, and we're doing even better because I'm attending briefings and I'm telling people what the response times goals are, reminding them that they'll stay in their areas and things like we discussed, having the cover car here. So, not specifically to Rossmoor, but second quarter averages, the dispatched on-scene time, that's still from the time the deputy receives the call. So they don't have it on the way I have it here, but 2 minutes is when the deputy gets called, 2 minutes and 38 seconds, and they arrive 4 minutes and 33 seconds. So it's a minute and 35 drive time. So when I say compare apples to apples, that's what I'm talking about. When agencies report the response times, this is what they're doing. They're cutting off the dispatch time, which I don't want to do. I want to report it accurately. So the way it's done up here on the screen, you'd have to do the math in your head, but it's not accurate. So anyway, the way I'm going to be measuring them is dispatch to the car driving to the call. So the one call in Rossmoor is 5 minutes and 53 seconds, which we're working on.
Lieutenant, can I ask a question at this point?
Absolutely.
Is it an unwritten policy, or is it a written policy that dispatch, at the completion of taking information over the phone, has 2.5 minutes to make contact with a deputy that couldn't respond? Do you know?
There is no policy, no written policy.
No written policy.
It's the department's goal, and I don't think it's difficult to make it a policy, because then you're obviously in violation of the policy. For instance, I sat on a shooting review policy, or a board last week, where the dispatcher was a San Juan Capistrano shooting. The dispatcher took almost 5 minutes to get that out, and it was a deputy-involved shooting. But because of the language barrier, and it was a 16-year-old girl, and they're trying to elicit the information from her who's trying to talk to her mom, by listening to it, you're like, come on, people. But the reality is you're not going to be able to.
That's an extreme example of...
Well, extreme, but not in the communities of San Juan and Stanton and things like that. I mean, but that's why we don't want to put it in policy, the 2 minutes.
I don't mean it in a judgmental way, but I'm just saying it's extreme in all the faux pas that could occur, if you will.
Yeah.
They were all there. The variables were all there to
Yeah.
consume a lot of time, and obviously I understand. They want the freshest and the best information all the time. But all things being equal, if a person speaks in a reasonable manner to the dispatcher, the goal, I understand then tonight, is to reduce the response time of the dispatcher to either telephonically or by
Right.
radio.
That's one of the components of it, right?
It's to reduce that time from 2.5 minutes to something less than that.
Right. And I don't know that they can put a time on it because certain crimes require more information for officer safety purposes. We don't want to dispatch a deputy who's 30 seconds away and have it be a dangerous situation when he's going into. But
No,
we are changing things. Commander Barnes had stated in that meeting that they're making things different for dispatch now, where they'll put the initial information out with more to follow. They'll put MTF on there, so the deputy knows, okay, they got the call out, but there's more stuff to come. So that's some of the measures that we're taking now that we're locked in on that 5-minute goal. Everybody has responsibility for their piece, including dispatch. So, any other questions?
Well, the question I have is, you said that you've changed like some of the stations where you're doing the dispatching. I don't know if that's a permanent change or temporary. Will that impact this 5-minute situation in terms of response times?
It should, and not where we're doing the dispatch, but where we're dispatching the cars from. Let me take that back. Where the cars will be stationed overnight and where the deputies go to work. Instead of coming to work in Santa Ana and taking the patrol car and driving here, they'll no longer do that. Their locker and their cars and everything are in Stanton, so they'll respond here from Stanton. But ideally, they're here all the time. It's only when they're going off duty. What will help the community of Rossmoor is, instead of having to leave here to go get gas at the end of your shift, because we're required by policy to put gas in our cars before we turn them at the end of the shift, which the gas pumps are in Santa Ana, the county gas pumps, they won't do that. They'll go to the city yard in Stanton and to the station. So it's a 20-minute instead of leaving an hour early to drive to Santa Ana in order to have time to put gas in and then get to headquarters to turn in all your equipment. So on both ends of the spectrum, it'll help. When they first come out on duty, they'll be here in 5 minutes, or going home, they'll be here longer. So,
Well, thanks for the clarification on that. And then one other thing, you're describing a lot of different like break-ins
yes.
where people either have windows open or they're breaking in with screens or whatever, and they're taking some valuable property. Would those be considered a 487 or a 488?
No, if they're getting into someone's house, it's a burglary. Whether it's locked or not, if you enter someone's house, it's a burglary. So the 48s or any other kind of, that's a petty theft. 47 is any other kind of theft that is out there. So, and there's a difference in robberies and things like that, but I think the most troublesome we have in the community is residential burglaries. So that's what I focused on tonight.
Thank you.
Lieutenant, you were on the Rossmoor detail before?
Yes.
What year?
I was in patrol here in the early 90s, and then I became part of the neighborhood enhancement team where I met Mr. Coletta and Dorothy and some of the folks in early 2000, I think it was.
Okay. When you look at these stats, now that you have a fresh eye and you knew where it was, what do you make of these trends?
It's cyclic, it really is, and some of the things that I'm trying to implement, for instance, the bikes, and I'll answer your question directly, is some of the things I did when I was in neighborhood enhancement. We started having a bunch of vehicle burglaries here. I mean, they spiked. So what we did is, partner and I got on bike patrol here in the middle of the night, from midnight till 8 in the morning. We were here on bicycles. It's amazing how many people are out jogging at 4 in the morning here, but there are. We stopped them. So that's what I'm talking about, and it's hard to measure how it was back then because it's a different thing. When I was a young deputy here, we had a rash of car thefts. People were stealing cars, and it happened for a few months straight, and I was working Sunset. My partner was in Rossmoor on midnights, and we hammered this place, and they still got away with them because they get out on, go out from either whatever main thoroughfare to Cattell and make a left, and you're in Long Beach. So, and one of them that was stolen was on a tow truck because the car didn't run. So, and my partner was there 3 minutes after it happened. So, it's not for lack of trying, but it is very cyclic, and right now it looks like it's going back down, and we hope to keep it down. But the only way we can do that is make arrests and get the word out there. And I know I sent through Alfred the arrest that we made for vehicle burglaries 3 or 4 weeks ago, which is a prime example. And these people were coming from LA County. They didn't even know where they were when they were here. One of them's a juvenile and 3 adults. The only person in the car who knew where they were at was the driver. So all from LA County, and it's somehow they make it in Rossmoor, and they were breaking into cars. Not just here, they broke into cars in Long Beach too. So the van was full of property from several vehicle burglaries. So it's just staying on top of it. So
Now, when you say bikes, is this bicycles or?
yes,
Oh, okay.
very quiet. The problem is
Harleys
no. The problem is at night, and again, working this community at night, you try and black your car out and drive down Martha Ann. Well, reality, when I'm sitting on a bicycle, I can see that patrol car coming from 2,000 feet away, rolling by without his lights on. On a bike, they can't see you and they can't hear you. Okay. So it is a great way to do it, and we've got a bunch of guys chomping at the bit to do it. It's just they were assigned to the fair in the parking lots, and it's, that we have an hours thing where they can't work over 48 hours in a pay period and of overtime, so they were stacked on the fair. And one of the guys I talked to yesterday says, yeah, I'm on it. I said, all right, let me know when you're going. So again, that's just a matter of getting people out on the streets and making arrests, and that sends a message. So,
Well, thank you for your out-of-the-box thinking about the bikes. I love the idea about being dispatched from Stanton. I think those are two very worthwhile, and thank you for that, and also welcome back to Rossmoor.
thank you, I appreciate it. Anything else?
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Our next presenter, Mr. Tubwat, is that person available?
Yes, sir. Either Mr. Paul Simonds or Alexander Kim will begin the presentation from SoCal Gas.
Good evening. Thank you very much, President Coletta, fellow directors, staff for the Rossmoor Community Services District. Sorry, that's a mouthful. Thank you for allowing us to make a presentation on behalf of Southern California Gas Company. We want to let you know about our upgrading of our systems. We call it the advanced meter. So we have a project overview. I'll just go over the first slide here. Make sure this is on. Yeah, there you go. Okay, what is the advanced meter? It is a California Public Utilities Commission decision received in April 2010. We're authorizing over $1 billion in upgrading our systems to approximately 6 million customers. And our territory ranges from Visalia in Central California all the way down to the Mexican border. So we have a very large area. And we are installing a wireless communication device to each meter by 2017. This device automatically reads and securely transmits hourly gas information to on a next day basis. It provides more detailed information to help our customers better control their energy usage on a next day basis online. And also the employees of Southern California Gas Company will perform these installations, unlike other utilities where they contract out to other contractors. So I want to introduce Paul Simonds. He is the actual person responsible for the project, so project development. Paul?
Well, thank you so much for that. I did want to point out, as the project in and of itself is the installation of a radio device. It's the same meter that is currently located at every residence in the community. Every small business has a gas meter. We're simply installing that gray radio device that sits just behind the dial on the gas meter. That radio device is applied by pulling off the dial, sliding in the radio, putting the same dial right back on. So we're not changing out meters. We're not changing 6 million meters out. We're simply adding this radio device. The installation thereof is actually going to be done by the folks who currently read meters. Alex alluded to that a moment ago, but as you may know, our meter reading community, that's a part-time job in the gas company, we've worked very closely with our union to get their buy-in so that they supported the project, and part of that was to bring those folks who currently read meters on to do the installation of the radio. Unlike other investor-owned utilities, that job was typically contracted out. We kept that in-house. So what is it? This radio is powered by 2 AA-sized batteries. There are no wires or anything of that nature. These batteries hold their charge for 20 years, and they're able to do so twofold. One, they're lithium-based, and secondly, because they're only transmitting that much a day. So your electric smart meters typically transmit about a minute a day. Our radio device, our advanced meter, if you will, is transmitting 1.7 minutes per year. So it's just apples and oranges in terms of the differences in the technology. Also, you may be aware that your electric smart meter operates in what's known as a mesh system. I won't get too technical here, but essentially you've got meter A speaks to meter B, speaks to meter C on a given street block. And then all of that information is sent up through their network that they've already have, as part of their infrastructure with their wires and what have you. We have one radio transmitting up to the network directly. We're going to spend some time talking about the network in a moment, but for your own mind, you could just imagine that no meters are talking to each other. From the meter, sending information up through a network. This is one-way communication. Nothing is coming back into the meter. There's no automatic shut-off. We're simply recording gas use information differently and presenting that back to residents and small businesses so that they have more data and they can make the decisions how and when they would like to make cuts. So much of the smart meter phenomenon is gearing toward home area networks and getting a closer look at utilities that are being used in the home. That's not what this is all about. Again, nothing is coming in, information is leaving. So the gas company doesn't know if you're using your heater in the house or you're heating the pool at night or what have you. We just know that gas is flowing through the meter. There's no communication or observation of what appliances or utilities are being used in the home. I love this slide. It's very simply, explains what the project is, because you've got gas flowing through the house the same way as always has. That information is sent up through the network, which we'll spend time in a moment. The information is then sent to the gas company, where we then present it back to residents on a next day basis. Some of the technologies in the future, which I think are interesting, you may have high bill alerts. You can set a threshold. Say, I know our gas bill is typically pretty low. But let's say you want to keep your gas bill about $30. As you reach that $30 plateau based on how much gas is flowing through the house, get an email, get an alert on your iPhone, something along those lines. That would be an example of some of the technologies we'd move toward. The network itself is a collection of data collector units. We need to install 4,000 of these pieces of equipment throughout our service territory, which Alex alluded to, ranges from about Visalia to the Mexican border. The data collector is essentially a gray box about the size of a small suitcase, 24 by 15.5 by 9, weighs 80 pounds. More important than the box would be the antenna structures at the top of a given pole. You've got two 3-foot tall antennas operating at a 450 megahertz band that the gas company owns. Those two antennas receive the information from the meters or the radio on the meter itself. There's one 5-foot tall antenna that I can report to you today has gone away. That 5-foot antenna, it's a new development as we continue to take a closer look at the technology and try and streamline and make this as sleek as possible. When we presented this, when we sent this presentation over, there still was, although we had rumblings it may go away, it's official. We no longer need the 5-foot tall antenna at the top of the equipment there. Typically, these data collectors are powered by solar. In some cases, we have tapped into existing power, and I'll explain that in just a moment. To hold this infrastructure, the gas companies step out the doors to say we're installing 4,000 poles throughout our service territory. Generally, we're not going to install 4,000 poles. We are in negotiations with different pole-owning entities. For instance, we recently came to an agreement with Pacific Gas and Electric up north so that we can install our data collectors on those existing poles. Our sister company in San Diego Gas and Electric, a lot of poles in the South Orange County area owned by SDG&E will be able to install on there. In this area, as you know, most of the poles are owned by Edison. And we are in negotiations with Edison, and maybe one day we'll get to the point where we can install on those poles. Those negotiations have not bore any agreement to date, and we don't know if and when that agreement will ever take place. However, as Alex alluded to, we are mandated to move forward with a project, and we need to move, and so we can't wait on these negotiations to take place. So in many of the areas specifically that are kind of overlapping with Edison territory, today we're installing poles to hold this equipment. We have a number. Before I get into the poles a little bit more detail, I should also point out that we have a redundant system. Every meter or every radio on a meter will speak to upwards of 3 different data collectors. In the event that these data collectors are, struck by lightning or something goes awry, the customers, residents here will still be able to receive that information because it's sent to multiple data collectors.
May I interrupt you at this point?
I'm sorry? Please do, absolutely.
With the ability to transmit to data collectors outside of Rossmoor.
Yes.
For that contingency, do you know what the radio on the meter can transmit the signal to what distance?
It's typically about 1.5 miles or so, but a lot of those distances are written in pencil, I like to say. There are a lot of variables that would determine the distance. Typically, I've got data collectors about 1.5 miles from each other, but in downtown LA, they're obviously a lot closer. When I'm out in the desert in Imperial Valley, they can go a long way away from each other. So meter density and topography are my 2 primary factors which determine how many and where my data collectors need to be installed.
Thank you.
Yep. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of my timeline. We have essentially 2 years, at the end of next year, to get my entire network in place. That's all 4,000 data collectors. And then we go through and we install radios on meters, and we will begin that process actually later this fall. The first communities that will receive the meters or the radio device they're located in Lakewood, Cerritos, and Bellflower. It's about 10,000. We'll go through kind of an end-to-end process to kind of work out some kinks. And then starting in January, we engage in our mass installation and we move forward. Here in Rossmoor, you're looking at receiving radios on your meters the tail end of 2013 as we sit here today. So much of that, again, like where and how many data collectors written in pencil, there's, I'm sure, going to be some challenges along the way that may alter my schedule. But as I sit here today, I'm looking at the tail end of 13 for this community. We talked a little bit about some of this already. We talked about pole heights, overhead lines. Yeah, so in terms of attaching on existing poles, we do have some limitations, right? So if I've got a 20-foot pole or a 22-foot pole in a community, that's just not tall enough for us. We're really aiming for about 35-foot threshold. So the height of the pole is a consideration. Overhead lines, we need to be away from overhead lines, obviously, so that we don't have interference issues. So that's another consideration in terms of installing on existing poles. We do have one pole that we need to install in Rossmoor. And so a few weeks back, Alex and we visited the residents that are around the area of where we need to install this pole. We knocked on doors and handed a letter and information packet about the project. We were able to engage with 2 different residents and give a brief explanation. We did invite those folks here tonight. I'm not sure if they showed or not. But we did want to make every effort to get in the community and explain what is taking place here in Rossmoor. This gives you an idea. I like to go over, this is always interesting. When we propagate it out, it's one of those real technical terms, right? When the smart guys in Cleveland decided how many data collectors and where they needed to be located, they looked at all of our service territory determined by, again, topography and meter density and said, data collectors need to go here, boom. And the middle of that circle is the center point. I can go 500 feet in any direction from that center point to install a data collector. That's kind of the give that I have in terms of finding ideal locations. This is where we need to install the pole in Rossmoor. I can go back to the exact, I guess, a couple slides over. I think you guys are familiar, but it's directly across from 12681 Christie Lane. There's the long and lats. It's between Brimhall and Walker Lee in the public right-of-way. I should point out, too, that the gas company is positioning or installing these poles all in the public right-of-way for the time being. We have engaged in with some private companies, but we're really hampered by cost issues, right? So everything that the gas company does is supported by ratepayers. And so if you go to a private entity, this technology looks and feels like maybe a telecom or something along those lines, telecommunications company. And there's been I guess a history of charging telecommunications companies lots of money to install in private areas. We're not in a position to pay those funds. The PUC would not allow that because we would have to, send those costs down the line to ratepayers. And the PUC does manage that. Yes, sir.
But on your slide on page 2, it says the California Public Utilities Commission, they made a decision received in April authorizing
$1.05 billion.
Whose money is that?
That's ratepayers. Ratepayers pay for that.
Okay, so that's not taxpayer money.
No, sir.
That's future incoming funds from the user himself.
Yeah, so everything with the gas company, as you are probably aware, is all paid for by ratepayers, right? If we have an upgraded fleet of trucks, ratepayers pay for that. If we need to go through and make sure that lines are safe in the community, ratepayers pay for that. This project is paid for by ratepayers to the tune of $1.05 billion. Now let me talk about that for a minute.
So the CPU is authorizing you.
That's right.
To take money from ratepayers in the future to fund this project.
No, they're funding it right now. On average, ratepayers have paid about $2 or so, a little bit under $2 on their current bills since January of this year to pay for this project. Okay. Yes. It's not a line item. It's worked into your rate like any other infrastructure upgrade with our company, right? And that $2, it's on average, I think it's $1.87 per resident on average. That falls away in 2018 completely. And then from there, you see a return through operational efficiencies, 1,000 less trucks as part of our fleet. There's environmental returns as well.
Okay, thanks.
So we talked a little bit about the area of where I need to install that. There's a couple of pictures of where we are looking to install the pole in the public right-of-way. And then from there, we can talk a little bit about our outreach efforts. I already talked about one leg of that stool, and that's where Alex and I spent some time in the community talking about the installation of this pole. We also have a robust outreach process really geared more toward the installation of the radio on the meter, a 90, 60, and 30-day approach that's kind of spelled out in this slide here. This is a basic communications plan. There's nothing real, out of the norm in this case, but it's in the community, it's newspapers, it's community events, and what have you. Certainly, day of, residents would know that the installation took place as well.
Well, before we conclude with your presentation,
Yes, sir.
I have some comments that I would like for you gentlemen to take back to Southern California Gas Company.
Yes, sir.
Given the signal can be transmitted 1.5 miles, I was wondering if you'd take into consideration alternative sites for planting a 35-foot pole. You use the word need. That word need is very subjectively defined. And I think if you go back to your engineers, I think you'll find there's a little bit more variable than 500 feet plus or minus within a few feet of that pole.
Yeah.
We have a number of mini parks. We have 2.
Right.
We have a number of drainage canals that go through the community. There are 2 areas I can think of right now, Baskerville and Shakespeare, and the equivalent is Copa de Oro and Montecito Road, where there is areas designated by Southern California Water. I'm not suggesting you consider planting a pole on their property,
right.
But on the public right-of-way, there's not a residential dwelling that is affected by a 35-foot pole.
Right.
I think if you take a look at those sites, I think you're going to find something that can work,
okay.
Rather than saying we need, right where the red mark is, as if I were Googling or doing a map quest,
sure.
And coming up with a red mark like that to designate the pedestrian view. I don't have the area you've circled here in red memorized. I can't recall if there's a drainage canal there. I haven't done that homework in advance of this meeting.
Okay.
But I think if we go with an open line.
Right
Is there?
there,
Oh.
right outside the curve,
Oh, thank you,
is the
Michael.
drainage right there.
All right, so Michael's ahead of me
Okay.
there. So what street is that, Michael?
It's the one, for the homes that are on Copa de Oro, they back up to a drainage,
Yeah.
to one of our, drainage water areas.
So
So
what-
basically, we're the outside, looking at your circle like it's 12 o'clock high. Go in between 12 and 11.
Okay.
On the edge of that red would be a better placement for that pole because it wouldn't be in front of someone's property. It would be behind where we've got a water access way.
Be happy to take a look at that. Absolutely. I am sensitive to, I understand the idea that the word need and locations, and it's all subjective. Here's the concern, is that because we have to, again, we're mandated to provide this redundant system and to the tune of 1 to 3, okay? If I get too far outside of my little 500-foot radius, I don't want to have to be standing before you again saying I need 2 or 3 poles in Rossmoor, right? And so if I move 1, I'm affecting the entire network in a sense in this area, right? It's because I have to have the necessary and adequate coverage. To your point, if we take it out and we find a location that makes more sense that we can get the adequate coverage, by all means, let's do it. I want to identify the path of least resistance. That said, I don't want to be standing before you again saying I need 2 or 3 poles in your community. That's not going to go over very well either. And so there's a balance there that we need to strike, and we'll certainly take a look at that location.
All right,
2 or 3 poles would be very acceptable if they weren't in front of a residence. So if you had to put 2 or 3 poles into some parkways or some small parks, I don't think anybody would be upset.
Okay.
So, just take that as a data point when you are rejiggering where you need to put poles inside the community.
Another thing that I've noticed when I drive into LA, there are certain areas along the 101 and where the 5 and the 10 connect, where there are poles that look like palm trees.
Palm trees, right. You'd be surprised how many people tell me, don't you dare come in here with a fake-looking palm tree. And I'm not kidding. One thing that a year ago when we started out on this effort to work with local governments, I was told every city is very different. Every city is very, very different. And so everyone has their preferences and ideas. I do know that, again, there's a cost consideration as you start to make poles look like palm trees that needs to be considered. And a lot of times, most of the time I do hear that's really not preferred. The poles that we're looking to install, we want to blend into what poles are already in the community. For instance, I was in a very affluent area in Orange County. It's more rural, and they wanted wood poles. Don't you dare come in here with a concrete pole because it's going to stick out. And we said, great, we'll put a wood pole in. I'm not going to stick a wood pole in Rossmoor, right? It would stick out, even more so than any other pole, to your point. So we want to bring, our philosophy is to bring poles that'll blend into the community to the extent possible, realizing that there is some equipment on top there that's not desirable.
Well, we pride ourselves with having an urban forest. That's why I threw out there the plastic palm tree. And we do have wood poles, as you've seen.
Right.
So. All right, so is there a chance that someone's going to come back to us and give us some options as far as where you would consider discussing with us planting a pole or two?
Yeah, I can certainly take a look at that. I mean, I'm your point person in this community, and I think I gave you my business card, and I know staff I gave a business card to as well. So we'll continue to take a look at this to try and find a location that makes sense.
That'd be great. I think it'd be well received.
Okay.
That's the most critical aspect, is placement.
Absolutely. Location, 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 right? As they say.
Worked very well with Verizon 6 years ago with their hubs that they've installed at strategic places. And given the initial design and footprint, by the time it evolved, and not over a long protracted period of time, they did wonderful work. And the data collection unit, you could say,
right,
comparable size.
Sure.
Very few in the community, and it's achieved obviously what they like, and I love it as a product.
Great.
So,
and we think you'll love this product as well as you start to have more flexibility, and you don't have somebody coming to your house once a month anymore and having to keep, gates open or pets locked up or what have you. That all is no longer an issue as we move toward this technology.
But also, I guess the theory is that people, once they get this reading once a day, I guess it's when it's available, that they will save some of the 1.05 billion by changing their usage habits, maybe even similarly to what people are probably supposed to do with Southern California Edison.
I would say yes.
Usage of their electricity.
Yeah, yes and no. I think that in theory, that's right. So some people will go on and manage their gas use very closely, and there will be savings to be had there. And I really think about small businesses in that sense, right, who are managing every penny every single month.
Right.
Residents, that's going to be a personal preference. Some people are going to really engage and want to save. Others aren't going to care because it's a $30 gas bill, and we recognize that.
And maybe it won't do this, but maybe down to even the idea if there's excessive usage, it may point out a gas leak. I don't know if that's
it absolutely
the intent.
will. No, it absolutely will. And that is the one, I guess we could call, pseudo safety element to this project.
Okay, so that's part of it.
That you would see a spike in usage immediately.
You would think.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you would say, wait a second, I'm using excessive gas. You call the gas company, we're out immediately to rectify the situation. The other piece to save the 1.05 billion, it really does come back to the operational efficiency. I think we were talking earlier about some of the safety concerns that are out there with meter readers and dogs and car accidents
Sure.
and rolling of ankles and all kind of stuff that are dealt with every single day is no longer a fee or a cost to the company.
Yep.
That again is borne by ratepayers ultimately.
Now, less medical bills.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, Jeff, you have a couple more.
I'm sorry?
You have a couple more slides.
No, I think we've really knocked this out.
There's a couple people in the audience. I think one gentleman raised his hand. Would you like to come up, sir, and state your name and ask your question?
Erwin Annisman, a resident of Rossmoor. I'd like to take advantage of the fact that we have representatives from the gas company here on a matter that came up a number of years ago in the aftermath of the San Bruno explosion. We had a representative from the gas company come and speak to us and other communities, no doubt, about safety issues. However, we had a number of questions that the person who was here wasn't prepared to answer as to the age of our pipes, location, the construction, and she was supposed to come back or get those answers to us. To my knowledge, those have never come back. So maybe you guys can pull some strings.
Well, I'll give you my business card. Here you go. Well, I'm glad if you have a few seconds to respond. As far as the pipeline safety issues, we are actually currently working with various local government agencies and city governments and the county in making sure that our pipelines are safe. Of course, you mentioning the San Bruno incident, which was horribly unfortunate what happened at the Pacific Gas and Electric Territory. What we're doing is, even before the incident ever happened, we have been inspecting our pipelines all throughout the territory. In fact, we are spending almost $3 to $5 billion in making sure, and this is granted by the Public Utilities Commission, because they wanted to make sure that our residents are secure and knowing that their pipelines are safe. So we are currently inspecting all of our pipelines, for those that weren't inspected before, on a timeline basis all throughout the territory. And for those areas where we do extensive construction, we might have to dig out the pipes. If we can't inspect them, we actually dig them up. It will cause traffic, all those delays, but this is in the guise of safety. Remember that. And also, there's another component to this. We're also, we have a procurement team that also is making available to small businesses, especially women and minority-owned businesses as well, for these contracts, not just engineering contracts for subcontracting, but also ancillary services, consulting, attorneys, and all these different types of services that will be available to the small business community to bid on as well. So you have my business card, so you could give me a call. I'll be happy to address some of the concerns. We do have a map of all the pipelines on our website at socalgas.com, available to the public, even though the U.S. government was a little nervous about showing all of our high-pressure pipelines in the area. We understand that terrorism is a concern, but at the same time, the residents have a right to know where the pipelines are in their area.
Mr. Simmons, when do you think our manager would hear from you concerning the footprint for the pole?
Within a week. Yeah, I mean, would I work with you, Mr. Tapoto?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. And then we did the obligatory business card exchange, so you'll hear from me in the next week.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have an interest to get this done as soon as we can. This last slide was nothing more than just procedural and securing the permits, working through the county, operating in the public right-of-way, that sort of thing. And so was pretty much the end of the presentation. Mr. Casey, did you have a question?
I do not.
Oh,
You've answered all
your
the
hand was
questions
up.
I have.
Okay. With that, I think that I'm done. I don't think I've got any more here. Just our contact information. The back end of this really talks about radio frequency. It's more anecdotal, or it talks about some of the concerns that are out there that we've heard as it relates to RF and the technologies associated with radio frequency. A comparison here with other, technologies that are in people's homes and that are out there. I do have a basic informational handout that I'll leave on the back table for any of you or anyone who's with us today. Just kind of summarizes and talks about what the project is. Okay?
Do you have that on a website link or anything like that?
Everything's at socalgas.com/advanced. So anyone can visit us there.
Can you make sure to share that with our staff, and can you make sure that gets put up on our website?
Absolutely.
So there's a link to this project that's going to be impacting the community. That way they can find out all of their data about it. Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, moving along, we have no additions to the agenda tonight. Now it's time for a public forum where anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board within 3 minutes can ask us to consider viewpoints that are within our jurisdiction, but understand we're not able to take any action, but we can direct staff at a later time to take an examination of your requests. So if anyone would like to step forward, please give us your name and state your cause.
Hi, real brief, Mark Niddickman. I'm now the RHA's new liaison to the RCSD, so.
Welcome, Mr. Niddickman.
Thanks. And I didn't duck fast enough when they were nominated. I do think this is an issue that the Rossmoor Homeowners Association is going to be very interested in. A lot of the homeowners are going to be interested. And so I would ask that Mr. Tabuada and the gas company coordinate with the RHA. And
If I may, we're actually scheduled to present next week.
okay, good.
So we'll be
Good.
there.
Good.
There you go.
There you have it, Mark.
There we go.
They're on their game.
Thanks very much.
Good evening, Service District and board members. I'm Georgia Lynn Seligman. I live on Wembley Road, Rossmoor. I just wanted to make a few comments about our summer program. Years ago, Rossmoor did nothing special for this community. About 25 years ago, a group decided to create what is now our Rossmoor Community Festival. I am here to speak about the programs that have been created the last few summers for our residents. They have been terrific. This summer, we were presented 3 concerts, 3 movies, and 2 wonderful Shakespeare by the Sea plays. A really big thank you to Emily, Chris, O'Mara, Liz for the publicity flyers, and the Rossmoor Community Services District. I have received lots of positive comments from various residents. Again, thank you from me, Georgia Lynn Seligman, a 40-year resident of Rossmoor. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Hi again, Erwin Annisman, Rossmoor resident. I have 2 items. The first has to do with the posting of the agenda. I was disappointed to see that the agenda was not posted on the website, and apparently they were using the partial suspension of the Brown Act to not post it, even though the adjacent cities have decided to post their agendas, and the CSDA has recommended that the special districts post the agendas. That's item number 1. Number 2 is I would like to encourage the board members to observe our facilities as they go around in the community. A case in point that I noticed the last couple of days was the growth of the plants and trees over the wall on the boulevard, over the brick wall. And especially of concern is that I noticed that there were vines that cling to the brick, and those things have a potential for destroying the material and undermining our walls. So I know in the past that O'Mara used to clip those things, and maybe that time has come to do that again. Thank you.
Mr. Tabar, can you address the posting of the notice of the agenda?
Mr. President, members of the board, it's absurd to think that anyone in this district would purposely violate the Brown Act by not posting an agenda on the website. If you read further along in the agenda, you have a report to the grand jury, which specifically addresses transparency on our website. In an effort to migrate from what was the old way of displaying budget and agenda information on the website, we are in the process of bringing this process into a more easily accessible format, so that anyone who wants to get on the website can immediately go to the agenda, go to the budget, go to any other important document on the home page without having to drill down through a bunch of various levels within the website to get the information they want. What happened in this particular instance is that in that migration process, there is a glitch in the software by the webmaster, which is being addressed. As soon as we became aware of it, the webmaster then coded specific language onto the website just to get that agenda posted onto the website when it was brought to our attention. There's absolutely no possible way that we would simply do this purposely. It's absurd.
Is the agenda and the meeting notification posted manually in the old style, in the old days at the specific?
Yes, sir, it is. It's posted at 3 locations. There's a copy available in the office, anyone who wants to come and view it.
So the convenience of the software going through the website was the only impediment for some residents?
That's correct, and if you'd like a report from Brea IT, they're here tonight to bring you up to date on what how that change is being accomplished. And as soon as it is, we'll be in full compliance with the efforts of the grand jury to bring more transparency to all of our websites.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Brea IT.
Mike Ryan is a manager of Brea IT, who is our contact person for any issues involving the website and other computer issues.
Good evening, gentlemen. Let me tell you what happened on the website. Most of you are probably familiar with smartphones, tablets, applications. You have an application on your tablet, your smartphone, and you'll notice there's updates issued on those. We use a software called .NET Nuke, which is built on a Microsoft .NET platform. It's an open source program, and that's what we use for the website. Ms. Deering has access to that, and when she posts things on that website, she has a GUI interface, so she is able to go in, post a link from a particular picture on the website, on the home page, or a click here to a document. Between the time that she posted the last month's agenda, and this month's agenda, several updates were done. In that time, we got a call from Ms. Deering, or an email to our programmer, that was not working, the link was not working. So he looked into it, told her a couple of different ways to do the links, and they were done. The links were there. I totally agree, you had to drill down 4 or 5 pages to get to that agenda. As soon as we found out about that, what we did is I had the programmer go in, and not through the GUI interface, go into the code and actually put the links on the website there in the headlines, and he has to do it in code. Right now, at this point, we've opened a support ticket with .NET Nuke. We had the programmer talk to them today. They are not sure what happened, quite honestly. Their little fixes work, but apparently they broke something else along the way. So what they've suggested is we have opened up an FTP site where we can actually upload the database and the agenda and the files to them, so they can put it on their test server to find out what broke. But in the meantime, if we have anything that has to be posted as a link, we've been instructed, Ms. Deering, to contact our programmer. He'll do it in the back end in the HTML code.
Mm-hmm. I'd just like to express my dismay and our continual efforts in working with you folks in this website that just continually is not completed. It's been an ongoing issue for months, and you know, once again, we have an unfortunate episode to where this shouldn't be happening. When you folks release updates, do you not do any QA work before you release it?
It's not the updates. We don't own the software. That's
Yeah,
not,
right.
that's not, this is a vendor. This is like anything else.
Right,
that
so they do the release.
They do the release.
Are we the
and-
only client of yours that's on this platform?
No, but they do the release, and the release specifies these are the bugs that are fixed, or these are the new versions. As I said, we contacted .NET Nuke. They are stumped also, and they're not sure what
But it's
what
open
happened
source,
in that.
right?
Excuse me?
.NET News and open source?
It's open source,
Yeah,
correct.
so who does the support for an open
Well,
source platform since it's
we
free?
buy the professional version of it, which we have,
Okay.
which we have access to support on that.
And is there, and what type of like an SLA is there on that? And anything? You get 24-hour support, you get?
Yes, we have 24-hour support, and as soon as we found out, we contacted them, and they are looking into it, and like I said, they are stumped, and they're you know,
So they
not
can't
sure what to
replicate
do.
the issue?
They are not able to do to replicate the issue, and this was going on today. My program had a conference call with him at 11:30 today with the support team at 11:30 today. They've requested to have the files and the database sent up to .NET Nuke, and they will be test running it on their server.
So what is our workaround?
The workaround is that the programmer can go in and post anything on the back end through HTML code. He can go in, he's a programmer, so he can go in and do the
So what is our
coding.
staff's workaround? She has to have a special FTP software to go?
No. All she has to do is send an email
Yeah.
to the programmer and CC myself on what needs to be posted, and he'll get it posted right away.
And what is that turnaround? Is it one day, 24 hours?
Hours. Just sometimes minutes, depending on what he has to do to go in.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Mr. President, members of the board, regarding the issue of the overhang on the wall, I have also noticed that, unfortunately, as you know, we've had some staffing issues due to illness and medical leaves. We're also spending an awful lot of new time watering trees, which are also very important to some people in this audience. And so there's only so much you can do at a given time, and it is something that will get done. It's just not getting done right away.
Perfect.
Well, these vines and trees are on private property overhanging the wall. So it's a dual thing here where I think the residents could perhaps visit their back property area where it's impinging on the wall and address it, and then they don't have to grow through the wall. I don't know if a notice could be sent out, just a quick little notice. By the way, we understand we're all busy, but, you've got vines growing over the fence or the wall, a brick, and it's attaching. That might be something to ameliorate the situation, given we're suffering loss of staff, and we've had some medical incidents where people are out recovering.
We'll look at that.
All right, I think that concludes public. Oh, gentlemen, sir, come on forward.
Hello, Dave Burgess, Rossmoor resident. I guess it's just an unfortunate coincidence where the website went sideways right in the middle of the Brown Act potential suspension, so I'm hoping we're rectifying that. Secondly, the landscaping contract. We're spending $80,000 a year on landscaping and ground maintenance. I would suspect that they're probably doing an 8 out of 10 of what they are doing, and they aren't performing about 30% of the contract. On my own, I came over here and cleaned up the tot lot area at Rush Park, and about 6 days later, I received a bad guy letter from Jenkins and Hogan saying, don't do that again. I'm just making you aware of that because there's no CC at the bottom of the letter, and I don't appreciate that. But I do have a list of volunteer activities that I will submit for a scope of work, which equates to about 1,000 hours of work a year. And I'll gladly submit it, but I certainly won't do it on a volunteer basis. But someone needs to manage that landscaping contract, observe what they're doing, and hold their feet to the fire. We spend $80,000 a year. I'm guessing they're probably not doing $1,500 to $2,000 worth a month of the scope of work. Shame on us. The Rush parking lot, We need to do that, whatever repairs we're going to do before the rainy season hits again. I know Mr. Rips was concerned that it was a safety issue, and then it's not a safety issue because then potentially trees might die. There's a tree 50 feet south or west of there that's been trimmed on both sides. Don't know how many years ago. It hasn't died. There's not much visibility on what capital projects we're working on and the status of it on the monthly meetings. And I don't know what the building and grounds maintenance work entails on the budget. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but if we're paying Valley Crest for any of that buildings and grounds maintenance, then we're getting further charge for services that aren't performed. The lighting in this auditorium, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I don't care if it's obsolete equipment in place. There's 88 light fixtures in here. To my knowledge, there's not a single bulb that's not working. I do believe that we need the emergency exit signs installed, similar to the two that are side to side to you. I don't count 23. I don't think we should spend $225 per light fixture to install new light fixtures that are currently working. Thank you.
All right, I believe that is the end of public forum. At this time, Mr. Tabata, if it pleases yourself and the board, I'm going to be moving to have the closed session follow the public forum. Anyone in disagreement with that?
Yes, sir. We'll adjourn to the West Room for closed session.
All right, so we'll adjourn momentarily and then we'll return. We met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 on the topic of public employment, and we have no reportable action because we took no action. So we're going to move now to reports to the board. D1, Mr. Topwater.
Mr. President, members of the board, as I reported earlier, the grand jury did a survey of all cities, special districts in the county with regard to transparency on their website for reporting salary, benefit, and pension information. Many of those jurisdictions that were surveyed were found to be wanting in the manner in which that data was displayed. In the case of Rossmoor, we had only ever presented salary data. We had, even though it was in the budget, we never specifically called out benefits as a function of salary on our website. And also, we were criticized for not reporting our pension costs. Of course, they probably didn't know we didn't have a pension plan and therefore had no pension costs.
Well, that's not correct, because they were told that we do not have contributions to pension costs. I was specifically interviewed. The report is not published. I'm no longer bound from secrecy. I specifically told them that there are no PERS contributions, there's no 401k matching contributions. So that is specifically something they've decided to omit and to paint this particular district in a particular fashion, either because out of ignorance, not paying attention, or choosing to take it in a particular slant and painting us with a broad brush stroke, as they say, with the rest of the districts who correctly should be corrected. So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want the audience
that's
to
quite
know
all right.
that.
As I recall, that conversation took place while we were talking about the previous grand jury report, and apparently it just wasn't, they didn't pay attention. And nonetheless, we concurred with their recommendations that we bring our website up to a more modern standard and to display salary and benefit information on our website where it was easily obtainable. And we gave the, assuming that you approve my transmittal letter to the grand jury, and the responses that we have, together with General Counsel, have crafted, that we gave ourselves a date of approximately 30 days from today to be up and running with that information. Some of it's already there. It's just not as easily accessible as we will eventually have it. So with your concurrence, the report from the grand jury is part of your package. The changes to the salary data and benefit data is included. There's also a transmittal letter from me to the grand jury, basically transmitting this information back to them, and with your concurrence, we will send that out forthwith.
All right, then I would motion that the attachments 2 and 3 as submitted part of tonight's package in D1 be remitted by Mr. Taboada to Judge Thomas J. Bora, Supervising Judge of Orange County.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. D2.
Before we get off this subject, Mr. President, I forgot to mention that when the issue of the suspension of the Brown Act came up, and we were advised that it was in fact suspended as a result of legislative action, as a more or less an unintended consequence of not paying districts for the cost of posting agendas, et cetera. We were advised by our previous general counsel and our new general counsel, and this advice has gone out throughout the state of California, that whether or not the Brown Act is suspended or not, that our agency should continue to act as if it is still in full effect and in force. So we will abide by the tenets of the Brown Act, and I'm sure at some point the legislature will see the error of their ways and reinstate that as a formal requirement. Mr. President, members of the board, report on governance. This is more of an overview of where we are and where we're going. Reported previously that we now have 2 Attorney General opinions that are very supportive of the district's attempt to contract for services with the Orange County Sheriff. Our General Counsel has written a letter to County Council asking them to withdraw their current objections to contracting with the Sheriff for core services. When our General Counsel contacted County Council about this, she said to him that they were rather busy with other matters that they were having to take care of, but that they would get to this as soon as possible. Nonetheless, we've asked the sheriff for a cost proposal, and when that cost proposal is obtained, then we will compare that against the cost data that is being developed as we speak. So that moves me on to the Public Records Act request. We have obtained from the County of Orange a majority of the data that was requested as part of that Public Records Act request. Mr. Fred Brousseau of the Harvey Rose Company is examining it and has submitted a preliminary report, which I'm reviewing. In fact, I received it this afternoon. And as soon as we know exactly what data was provided and if it's adequate and if it's as in the form that we requested, then we'll be able to move on to the next step with the county. I will report to you as soon as I know more fully how that data is, how it pencils out, and whether or not we need to go back to the county for additional information. With regard to enforcement of the district's tree policy, as you know, the County of Orange has taken the position that they are the final authority on removal of a tree which they deem to be hazardous. We met with County Council and Public Works staff to discuss this. I reported to you this previously. We have asked them to validate their assumption that they in fact have responsibility when it comes to public safety on the removal of a tree. And somehow they came up with not an opinion, but a memorandum from Then Deputy County Counsel Benjamin P. DeMaio, who rose to the rank of county counsel, that basically addresses the issue from their perspective that in fact the county does have the right to remove a tree which they deem to be hazardous or dangerous to public safety. They don't give us any citation as to how that authority stems from, but they did include something that was rather interesting. They said to us, if the district wishes to assume responsibility from the county for determining which trees need to be removed for public safety, the county and the RCSD could consider entering into an agreement whereby the RCSD would indemnify and hold the county harmless from any liability incurred as a result of RCSD assuming this responsibility. I'm not prepared at this moment to recommend to you that you should do that, but at least it is an opening for us to explore in negotiations with county council, that is current county council, as to what are their points and authorities for stating that they have the ultimate responsibility when we think that we have provided them with documentation that says that it is Rossmoor's responsibility. Mr. President, members of the board, that's my report on governance at the moment, and I'll stand ready to answer your questions.
I think we should look into assuming that responsibility. Basically, we thought we had it before, at least I did, until they usurped it from us, so I think that's definitely a thing we ought to consider doing.
We've got to keep in mind that that opinion, or that memorandum, is dated December 16th, 1996, and there's been...
Sure.
So we'll have to decide, we'll have to ask county council if they still stand by this, and if so, what is the rationale behind their position?
Right.
And,
yeah, I understand that, you know, it's
We'll
not that simple just to jump into it.
Yeah, and I also think we need to be cautious, because if we're fully indemnifying them, each time someone trips and falls, they're going to go after the district for money. So we have to look into what the liability and what the insurance cost we would have to take on to have complete, utter control of the trees.
Well, a trip and fall would still be county responsibility unless they tripped on the tree roots.
But if the tree roots cause the sidewalk damage?
Well, there are ways to mitigate that, and the county has a responsibility to either remove and replace the sidewalk or at least patch it so that it eliminates the trip hazard.
Okay. I'm just bringing it up.
Yeah, we have to be careful as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for the report. Now we go to D3.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'm just giving you an update on a project that you've assigned to me, which was the placement of signage at the three corners of the shopping district in northeast corner of Rossmoor. We have been working with our contractor to design the signs. We've been working with our architectural consultant to obtain the proper permits from the county. We have basically passed muster with the county for the requirements for the placement of those signs based upon obtaining a license agreement from the property owners, which we believe they have at least tacitly indicated that they're receptive to that. So we'll be working on executing those licenses and to finish the permitting process to get to actual construction of those signs. The agenda package includes pictures and other views of what these signs may look like, and a sample of the license agreement that we have obtained from General Counsel. There is an issue that I'd like to discuss with you, and that is, if you look at your package, you'll see that there's quite a wide array of different fonts and colors of signage throughout Rossmoor. And it might be appropriate then for this board to consider whether they would want us to standardize this, and if so, we could bring you examples of different fonts to look at, and more importantly, decide on whether we want to go with white or black lettering on these signs throughout the community. So that's my report, Mr. President, and I stand ready to take your direction.
It seems to me, Mr. Matabwada, that there's really only two fonts. One's a reversed color scheme, but we have the white lettering on Rossmoor Way, which is a capitalized block, and then you have it along the wall at Rossmoor Park. Those seem to be the same, just white versus black. So what are we proposing to put on the other signs?
Well, I've heard from different board members as to their preferences, and I asked them to share those with you and perhaps come to some consensus.
Yeah. Well, I do feel that we have that just from a branding perspective, we have to have a common
Agreed.
brand. What it is, I mean, Coke doesn't have different styles of how they portray themselves, so we have to figure out, are we Rossmoor or Rossmoor script? I guess that's what we are.
Well, the Rossmoor, when you come in on Rossmoor Way with our formal pilasters, that's the tradition, and obviously I love the white lettering on both of these. I think white pops more than black lettering. But that font there, if we could do it all the same way, I would go that way.
I'm going to go, personally, I look at, if we all take our RHA $5 a year fee or whatever, it's the script R.
Oh, that logo bug, yeah.
Yeah, so if it's a script R, I would say, I like how the white pops, but I think we have to go with the script, because that would be more of a heterogeneous, common thing. If we go back to this block Rossmoor look, I think
okay, what I'm saying is, this is its own little entry that was built, I don't know how many. 1957. I'm not necessarily, just from the historical standpoint, even want to change this one at all.
Yeah.
Nor would I.
But I think on the other walls and the other places where we do our branding.
Right, yeah.
I like the circle R, and I think the lettering
The
definitely.
script.
The script, okay.
Yeah, okay. So we're speaking
the same thing.
Okay.
And I definitely think the white, when you look at these photos and when you drive by, the white definitely pops more.
Yeah.
Especially at night.
Yeah.
When the light's on it.
Yeah, so like at the bottom picture there where it says Rossmoor Park, if you took Park off and just use the word Rossmoor.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Now, we have the issue that the remaining signatures, scripts, letter, are black. They're at every place in the community on the outlying areas as opposed to internally, with the exception of the Rossmoor Way. So,
and those, I think, would look better white as well, and I think we should be common in what we make.
that's what I was going to say. There needs to be a facelift on those. They need to be addressed.
Yeah, I could go either way on that, except the black. With that type of wall with the different varying in colors, the black does not look bad, but since we're going for uniformity, we could change it to white.
I'm pleased to have the entirety of the package as long as it's uniform. So it's either going to be black or all white. I don't think we should have both.
We'll just flip back to the other one more time. Look at white. Now flip to the next one. Look at black.
Then it has to be white. White's cleaner.
Now the only thing is on that variegated color of the brick, how's that white gonna look? Because if we go back to the other screen, you'll see the bottom one, that's a solid brick.
It's the same as the Rossmoor Park sign, which has the same brick style as the wall.
Oh, okay, but we're like thinking about the signature wall though.
Yeah,
If we change that out to white, how's that gonna look? Bottom right corner.
It'll look the same as the Rossmoor Park or the Rush Park sign right out front of, right outside here. Except depends on what color you want. They'll both.
I think what Bill's saying is, it looks like our on the little monument wall there, the bricks look more pristine, whereas when you go to our Rossmoor signature wall, you have more older, whiter bricks.
Those are close-ups.
Those are close-ups. I personally think the white pops more.
I think we agree on that.
So shall we take a vote? Then we want to make a motion so we resolve this?
Okay, motion is one, we need to have consistent fonts and lettering and that would be called the script. Also in the motion, we keep the Rossmoor on Rossmoor Way as a historical landmark, that we do not change anything there. And then lastly, on all the other entrances where we have either the circle R or the script, that we go white. That is my motion.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There's questions?
We've already voted, motion passes, so.
I want to give my input to this. I think that were you talking about painting the black sign white? Was that what you're going to do?
Which one?
Black lettering you see
Black
on this
lettering would be white on that.
signature
Yeah,
wall.
I think that'd be a mistake because somebody said it here, that the variegated brick there, the dark and the light, with painting it white, I think it'll get washed out. I think that'd be a mistake.
Yeah, that was my concern.
I don't think that, I think you should leave that black. I mean, that was a consideration when we first put it up there, that you want to have that contrast.
Dave Burgess. I'm not the aesthetics guy. All I know is we have $25,000 in the budget. Does that include all fees, licensing, and permits? That's the cap, approximately? Thank you.
I don't know what that means.
So if you guys want to ring the bell, we already passed the motion. We can re-unring it if you want. If not, we'll move on.
It has passed. My only concern is on that, Henry, on that variegated color wall, that is a multicolored wall, and I don't know how that white is gonna look.
Well, let's do this. Let's have Mr. Alvarado consider directing staff, or our contractor, Ms. Williamson,
Yeah.
to perhaps assist with this and just get a picture with a white script letter against the wall, a signature wall. Take a photograph of it and see if it does justice.
She can do a Photoshop of it.
Okay.
She can
Photoshop.
find an artist just to go.
Yeah, obviously, if it looks wrong, we'll fix it.
Okay. We're not going to do it tomorrow.
Right.
We're not going to
Well,
do it
that's
in
true.
the next 4 weeks. So if we can just get that clarification, bring it back next month and just,
Yeah.
then we'll have exhausted all
agree with that.
possible appearances.
Fair enough.
Is that fair enough? Okay, so we'll
All
go with the
appearances.
decision
For purposes-
now until we're corrected next month.
I agree.
So do you want to undo your motion and just table this, or, because
Is
we have to have something for the minutes.
The
And
minutes are that the motion is passed, but the board is also requesting that through the manager, Ms. Williamson, as Bill suggested, I don't know if you can Photoshop it or not, correct if it's wrong. Can it be Photoshopped?
Yes, I'm Cheryl Williamson. I'm the consultant on this project to the RCSD. And I have prepared some Photoshop images of the proposed signs that we started this conversation with. And I wanted to mention to you before, yes, of course, I can Photoshop those right there. Yes,
Signature wall.
correct. I wanted to mention to you that as it stands now, the specifications for the color and type of brick that are for the proposed 3 signs at the 3 corners is the kind of brick that is on the Rush Park and the Rossmoor Park's monument signs. By monument sign, I mean like freestanding, like a tombstone. So, and that is not a variegated brick. That is a solid
White will look like.
brick.
Yeah, so, yeah, the white will work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's, yeah, like that.
Perfect.
So the white would work well with that, but back to the signature wall with the variegated brick, then I agree, white is going to be a challenge.
Let's see the photo and see if that does justice to the eyes as a test article
Okay.
for us to decide. And if we're corrected, then we're big boys here, we'll change our decision.
We all just
Very
want it
good.
to look nice.
Yeah, that's the idea. And this is kind of like a brand image thing. I think consistency is paramount, so, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Williamson. Thank you for being available. All right, now we move to the consent calendar. If
I just
anyone,
have one other thing on that, I'm
Yes, yes.
sorry. In the agreement, Henry, at the on page 1 of the license agreement, can you make sure that, this probably isn't the final, but they said in the first paragraph of the license agreement, they said Rossmoor Community Services District instead of Rossmoor? Just make sure they fix that typo. I don't know where
What page?
Rossmoor is. You see
first
that?
paragraph on the left. See where the blackened portion is to the left of that? Bottom.
We'll correct it.
Okay, just,
Rossmoor, R-O-O-S.
sure.
Oh, there we go, Roots.
That's our previous general counsel.
It's just kind of important. It's just kind of important it's
Rossmoor.
referencing.
That's
who
what
we are.
happened.
It's just a ruse.
Okay.
Good eye. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. All right, now we go to the consent calendar, and this is where anyone on the board, if they so choose, can pull one of those items.
Nope.
If not, then all matters on the consent calendar, 1, 2, and 3. All are in agreement. If you approve those 3 matters, please say aye.
Aye.
If you oppose, say aye. Nay. Hearing no one opposed, okay, the consent calendar is approved. We have no public hearings, we have no resolutions. Now we go to the regular calendar, H1.
Mr. President, members of the board, this item was before you last month, and there were questions that were unanswered, and you asked that we come back with a better explanation for those questions and give you a better comfort zone with this project. I've asked Ms. Williamson to work with the contractor to provide the information that you requested, and also that we have Mr. Bob Colley here, who's the president of West Coast Electric, who's here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, President Coletta, board members. Thank you, Henry, for the invitation. I heard some comments this evening, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I understand and appreciate those sentiments. My dad had a 1959 Rambler that he just loved, and you could turn the key and it would start. But it only did that because after a few years, the mechanic was working on it all the time. And we're somewhat to that point, yes, if you go outside. And again, this proposal is to upgrade 2 parts, the lighting in the perimeter of the auditorium outside the panels, and also to upgrade the emergency lighting. But it works because Omero is repairing these on quite often. And if we could replace these with a more energy efficient unit that didn't require quite so much maintenance, you would have more time maybe to water the trees or to trim the bushes and to do other things that might be necessary. So 2 items. One would be the emergency lighting. I guess about 2 years ago, the power went off in the area during a board meeting. And the 2 lights that I put up on either side of the dais were the 2 that came on, and you can see to get out. They're kind of important. So my proposal is to go through and replace all the current exit lighting throughout the building with a very similar item. But not just that, but to also upgrade because there's not enough. So we would be adding 5 more in here, and that wouldn't be with the exit sign. That would just be the emergency egress. That would just be the light bulbs. They're a smaller, less obtrusive unit. You don't see them as much, but I figured 5 in here, 2 on either wall, 1 in the back. Also in the restrooms, if the power goes off, you wouldn't be able to see to get out. So we would be upgrading lighting in the restrooms, also the hallways on either side. And I think the east room, I don't believe there's any in there as well. So that's where that total of 23 came up to. It wasn't just what's here now, it's adding those as well. A big part of that cost is in providing power to those locations, which there isn't power there now. So it's not just changing the light, it's also adding the wiring for that. As far as the units outside, the recessed troughers, or what you would call the drop-in lighting, it is obsolete. The ballasts are obsolete, they're energy inefficient. This is a sample of the light bulb that's in there now, kind of old World War II vintage. They've stopped making these, they've warehoused them. Yes, they're available now, but only because they're warehoused. But once that supply is gone, they're gone. The modern lamp
T8, yeah.
would be this style. These were originally 40 watts, now they're only available in 32. The fixtures out here have a combination of 40 and 32 in them. If you look at them, sometimes you'll get a checkerboard effect. These are only 32 watts, but they're probably about 40% brighter than these. So my proposal to change the lights, I believe it was 84 going down to 66. There's fewer fixtures. The fixtures you have now have 4 lamps in them. The new fixtures only have 3 of these. With 3 of these lamps in each fixture, they're brighter than the ones that are there now. My guesstimate, because it's based on usage of the building, is energy savings of about $1,000 a year just from upgrading the fixtures. There are Edison rebates also available. That's a temporary program. My estimate is, again, we would get the hard numbers once the paperwork was completed, but I'm believing we're going to get about a $2,500 rebate from Edison for the upgrade. That's a limited program. There's $15 million right now in an Edison budget for completing these repairs, but that's all throughout Edison's territory. And that, when that money's gone, you know, it's gone. So time is of the essence, at least in applying for that money, whether we use it or not, at least the application process. I was involved in upgrading the lighting in the theater at about 2009, which is when we became aware of some of the wiring issues to the lighting out in the lobby. We repaired that we found, but all of the ceiling didn't come down. I'm not telling you that there's some damaged wiring anywhere else, but we don't know until the ceiling comes down. If we take the ceiling tiles down, we'd be in a position of fixing anything. Some of those fixtures have a battery backup system in them now, similar to what is in these systems, but they're not working. Batteries need to be replaced. They're very expensive. They're old lead acid style. All this new lighting is all electronic, very low wattage usage. Just as an example, your existing exit lights have a screw-in incandescent bulb, 7 watts each. There's 2 per fixture. Each exit light you have now is 14 watts. If you count the number that are in here now, it's about 150 watts of power. In your own house at home, would you leave 2 75-watt light bulbs on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know, forever? It's just not a good use of energy. The new ones are LEDs. They're about 1.5 watts each. So the energy savings is going to be considerable over time. I'd love to tell you it'd be a 3 or 4 or 5 year payback. It won't, but you will eventually get a payback, certainly from the energy savings, but also from maintenance. When we put these new fixtures up with the electronic ballasts and the modern lamps, we're getting to the point many times where we're going 5 years before there's any maintenance required. So that's kind of a big time savings. And that's my proposal. Do you have any questions?
So have you done anything similar to what you're discussing here at any other facilities in terms of swapping out something like we have for this technology you're describing?
More in an industrial environment than commercial, but yes, we have. Warehouses, for example. And if you wanted a really concrete example, Home Depot has done retrofits in all of their stores with the modern fluorescent lighting. But in an industrial situation, I have. The savings has been tremendous, and the maintenance costs go way down.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ron, they've been, this T12 to T8 thing's been going on since the mid-90s.
Right.
This is not a new
I've heard
thing.
that.
This is an old-time thing. So like my question is here is, what is the difference in the lamp cost between the T12 32 watt and the T8 30 watt? Are they roughly the same, or is it T8 significantly more?
Of course, being obsolete, but they've
been obsolete for 15, 20 years now.
But they are warehouse. Before they were banned in California, as far as being manufactured, they supplied a very large quantity of them. So they are warehouse. But as that quantity comes down, you know, the price is going to go up. And I think that these right now are somewhere in the $3 range. You know, if you went to Home Depot.
What are the T8s?
And I get these for about $1. But these are going to last you at least 3 years, maybe 5.
And how about the T12s?
This T12, I don't know how often Romero is replacing them, but I would bet that this thing's going to last maybe a year and a half. I know that the lamps out in the exit lights, because we were talking about it, he's replacing them about every 3 months. They're going out.
Really?
Okay.
Well, it's time consuming. It's he could be doing something else.
I have no more
I
questions.
have a question on number 3. This comes with electrical engineering, Title 24 calculations, and a full electrical engineering plan, not just the calculations. Is that actually a requirement to have?
What we're asking is an allocation for that amount. When we come asking for money, I have to tell you what we think might be the worst-case scenario. So if this is authorized, we would be going down to the county, and if it's something less, then you would just be charged for less. But if the county told me that you need an electrical engineering layout, you need circuit diagrams and that sort of thing, that's what it would cost.
So that's a worst-case scenario?
Yeah, that would be a worst-case scenario, and it may be far less than that. As far as the budget numbers for planning and permit costs of $2,000, which is further down, the way the county was working is you would make a deposit, and they were charging an hourly rate, and then you would get a rebate from that amount. The last project we did was at Rossmoor Park with the exterior park lighting, and that's what they asked for, a deposit of $2,000. I believe the costs were about $800, and the RCSD got a $1,200 rebate back after all the charges were compiled by the county. That's just the way they charged.
I actually have a question. Cheryl, has Cheryl reviewed this?
Yes. She was deeply involved with since the last board meeting.
What's your opinion, Cheryl? You want to come
Microphone,
up to the podium
please.
so we can capture your thoughts?
I worked both with West Coast Electric and Henry on this, and I think the allowances are high, and I think their open book approach to this is reasonable. I talked to my connections down at the building department regarding Title 24. We don't need calculations on that. The form work needs to be filled out, but it doesn't need to be done by an electrical engineer. I offered to help with filling out that form work. I did want to add that, I don't know if you know, in previous work that he's done here in this building, that he found charred electrical wires, meaning there's been electrical fires in the ceiling here at some point in this building's history. So I think that when he goes back, and obviously included in his proposal is not only retrofitting the lights, but going back and correcting the electrical circuitry, replacing all the damaged wires, making sure that everything is safe. I think that's an open-ended thing. We don't know what he's going to find. And so I think in terms of trying to price that out, I think that's a reasonable number in there, because we don't know, it's unknown, but I think it needs to be done. What other questions did you have for me?
No, I just wanted to hear your thoughts. I mean, the last statement you made is a good consideration. But you said something that it's at the high end, but reasonably at the high end of costing the labor and then the product, as well as the leg work in facilitating the calculation, which again, anybody that has an understanding can do it.
Okay, great.
So, sorry? Okay. So that's all I'm asking you for your second opinion. And
Okay.
so I've heard from other people in the audience as well as the board, but I haven't heard from you.
Okay, thank
So
you.
I wanted your bias.
Oh.
I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Other questions? Good? Thank you.
All right.
Are we supposed to vote on this? Or?
Any thoughts, considerations, board time?
I just didn't see anything here that said that they were going to be fixing any faulty wiring or anything. I mean, I appreciate that you said you're going to that may happen, but I don't see anything in the scope of work saying that we're going to include this and fix it and rip out burnt
That was the basis of going into this project in the first place.
Okay.
That's why we initiated the project. And as Cheryl has pointed out, you cannot estimate what that might be. But all I can tell you is that we've worked with this contractor. I have faith in his product and his pricing, and I need a motion on this because I'm not going to be here much longer right now.
Okay. All right. Mr. Casey, any further questions?
No, nothing other than just to say that it looks like we're talking about 21,500 plus potentially 4,600 for the planning costs and the permitting, and then getting all the signatures. So it looks like it's around 26,000.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we proceed with this project as outlined with the contractor who is here.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
One opposed, 3 affirmative. The motion carries 3-4.
I'm sorry, who was the, okay.
Mr. Kaler. All right, last item, H2.
Mr. President, members of the board, usually this is a consent calendar item for the Recreation Department. However, because this was a year-end report as well as a quarterly report, and since it was so well done, I asked Cheryl if she would mind if Emily, I'm not feeling well, thank you. I asked Emily if she would, just give you a brief overview of a summary of the activities of the department, which I'm rather proud of. Emily?
I've been here now for about almost 4 years, and in that time, I've developed a Concerts in the Park program, expanded our Movies in the Park program, worked with the cities of Los Alamitos and Seal Beach on numerous events, helped the RHA assist with their annual community festival in May, and I have a history in recreation. I love recreation. I've now been in the recreation business for over 15 years, and I'm happy with my career choice, and I'm available for questions.
Emily, I think you've done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
And I know. Mr. Chabwada, I understand. We're going to excuse Mr. Chabwada. He's come under the weather a bit, so. But nonetheless, I don't want to take away from your presentation. I've read everything as well as everyone on this board, and I think what we see speaks loud and clear that you have a passion for recreation and oversight of the parks, separate apart from recreation, and the events speak for themselves. I know the long-standing history on the Movies in the Park predates you, but you've taken it and built upon it and finely tuned it, and it's well appreciated. The concerts in the park are well received, and Ms. Seligman, I think correctly acknowledged your work, Chris's efforts, and the entirety of the office that helps support and fuel you to carry out your vision as you collaborate with the Homeowners Association and also listening to the residents, as well as working with the neighboring communities. So you have big shoes to fill, quite a reputation to live up to. So I'm pleased with what I see, and I know there's always room for improvement and there's always new ideas, but I think you're doing, with what you're given to work with, the budget you're given, and the staffing limitations, I think we're doing pretty good.
Thank you. I was trying to speed it up because I knew Henry wasn't feeling well, so can I, now that he's gone, can I bring up a few other points?
Certainly.
One thing that I'm collaborating with the City of Los Alamitos on is bringing in contract classes to Rossmoor. Los Alamitos has a wonderful contract class program where instructors come in, teach programs to all ages in Los Alamitos facilities, and they are tight on their facilities, and they want to expand, and we want to give residents the opportunity to do something in their own community. So if we offered those programs with Los Alamitos, in Rush Park, in Rossmoor Park, at the Montecito Center when the preschool's not in session, during summer breaks, winter breaks, We have the potential not only to allow the community to come into our parks to enjoy those recreational opportunities, but also work with Los Alamitos and potentially with the city of Seal Beach to offer these classes. And they would go in the Los Alamitos Rec Guide, they could go in our program, and they would also go in if we did go into this agreement with Seal Beach as well. But so far, I've only talked to Los Alamitos about doing this. And if you are on board, if this is something you want to venture into, then Los Alamitos is on board as well.
Well, I'll say one thing. I've gone to several classes they have in Los Alamitos, and they are excellent. They have excellent instructors. And I noticed that you are using a time frame of 3 to 6 in the afternoon, which would be really ideal if we could use that. But most of the classes I'm familiar with in Los Alamitos are between like 6:30 and 9 o'clock. And as far as I know, they don't have anything between like 3 and 6. So I'm wondering what kind of classes we could use here when we have low facility use that might be able to fill that time slot.
Several Mommy and Me classes, dance classes. The only problem with Los Alamitos offering classes is at those times is they offer recreational activities in those buildings during those times, and they only have one center to do it at, which is the Rossmoor or the Los Alamitos Community Center.
Right.
So their space is limited over there. They also rent out one part of the building to the youth center for no cost, and the youth center is holding their after-school program in that facility as well. And we typically do not have renters come in our facilities between 3 and 6 on Monday through Friday, so that's a perfect opportunity.
That would be ideal.
Yeah. So if this is something you are interested in, then I can talk to Los Alamitos tomorrow and present you with more information at our next board meeting or even in October. We would like to get this going by the winter, so it would go into the winter brochure.
Well, I definitely would support you fleshing this out a little bit more and
Okay.
coming back to us.
Okay.
That's where I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
We need more
Perfect.
information.
Indeed.
Perfect, yeah. I didn't want to gather too much information before I presented it to you, so.
I think it's worthwhile for you to dig into it.
Okay.
One thing, in case you're not going to do, I'm looking at your page 4 of your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And while Alfred was talking about the things you've done, I'm very excited about the things that you want to do. In case, just for people who are out here, she's actually working on the idea of offering a snow day and pancake breakfast in collaboration with RHA to coincide with the Sheriff's Department's toy drive at Christmas. I think that's an incredible, fun idea. I like offering pre-movie, pre-concert magic or wildlife show. I think a lot of the programming ideas you have, and then this last one, not the last one, but provide drop-in senior activities at Rossmoor Park during the AM in coordination with the senior tennis club. I think these are all very worthwhile and ideas that I would encourage you again to flesh out and put some more meat behind them because they seem exciting to me.
Perfect, that's what I wanted to hear before I did that.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, just the last thing that, under your leadership, we've come a long way in terms of a lot more events and a lot more fun and exciting things to do. So I commend you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
All right, General Manager has stepped away with an excuse. Now it's time for board member items.
Well, actually, yeah. This goes down to just what I call good intentions. We had a problem with our website, and Erwin came in, and his point was that he would assume that we are failing to live up to things, and we purposely we're going down the Brown Act in a wrong way. And the only thing I want to let people know is don't assume the worst in people. That's just negativity that I don't think in life is a healthy point of view. I think everybody in our district, I think people on our board, I think this generally in life that people are or people do have good intentions, and try not to think the worst in people. Try to give people a break, because I don't think we need such hostile type of comments. I don't believe everything deserves Rossmoor Gate attention and things like that. I think there's a lot of negativity that is pointing fingers when people don't actually have all the information. And just to call and be frank, it makes the person pointing fingers actually look a little foolish. So I would just, in general, encourage people to have a little bit more faith in people who are trying to do good work and trying to do the right thing. So that is my comment for tonight.
I have a couple of things. First, I'd like to thank and commend Mr. Tabuada, even though he's left for the evening, for his efforts in providing several qualified candidates for the position of general manager of the Rossmoor community, and his efforts are very much appreciated in what he's done for us in that regard. And secondly, even though it's been several weeks ago, I still can't believe that Randy Reynolds has passed away. He was just the greatest guy, an extremely capable arborist, and he was always very easy to work with, and just a pleasure to have him around. And it's a huge loss to not only his family, but also his friends, and definitely to the community of Rossmoor. So all I can say is, rest in peace, my friend. And that's all I have.
Nothing? I have nothing either. So unless there's another board member item, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.